right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Tacobout Live with Frank and Manny. How y'all doing there, Frank?
Hey, good. Good to see you.
All right, brother. And this morning we got a special guest in the house this morning with us, Virgil Armstrong. How you doing there, Virgil?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. All
Good
right.
morning.
All right, brother. Good to see you again.
And so Virgil is he's a retired Supervisory Border Patrol Agent from here in Del Rio, Texas. Of course, yeah, he spent time in other places as well. But you're retired out of here in Del Rio, and now he's running for mayor. And so we're glad to have you on, brother.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm enjoying it.
All right, praise the Lord. And of course, there's Frank over there.
Hey, sorry. I was just saying good morning. Hey, everybody. Hey, so it's been kind of crazy, but remember, I just want to say this real quick. No matter what is going on in your life, God knows you. He knows about you. He knows about it. He sent his son, Jesus Christ, into the world to shed his blood upon the cross so that we could spend eternity with him. But the other aspect of that is we can have a relationship with God the Father. So explore that relationship, make it stronger. And he's always with you. He never forsakes us, and he never abandons us.
Amen, amen.
Amen.
And so we want to thank you guys also for joining us online. We're on several different pages. We're on YouTube, Rumble, as well as Facebook Live. So whatever medium you want to hit us up on. You know, we're also on Old Patrol headquarters on their Facebook page as well. So I want to thank you all for joining us. And then we're also live on our website, tacoboutalive.com. So you're more than welcome to go over there and follow us as well as we stream live every Tuesday, God willing, every Taco Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, all the way from the studios of Del Rio, Texas.
All right.
Yeah, so we're right on the border. I always tell people it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here, right?
Yeah. We're at the end of the road, but hey, it's a good place to be right now.
So Virgil, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you mentioned in the intro there, I'm a retired Border Patrol agent. Spent 25 years service. Traveled quite a bit. Traveled all over to represent the service. And retired right here in Del Rio. My wife likes to call me an import. Brought me in from New Mexico, and been here 6 years. Enjoying every minute of it. Decided to retire. It was the best choice I ever made. I think you guys are right in the same boat as me. You know,
Yeah.
it was time, and it was a good choice. And before that, I was in the Marine Corps. Before that, served my country just again all over the world.
Yeah.
And so. Just that's me in a nutshell. That was my career. Family man. I have 5 kids.
Wow.
And my wife. You know, so I think we represent Del Rio pretty well when it comes to being involved in the community,
Right.
And everything. And out there, you know, sports, you name it, we're involved.
Good. And you know, like I'm originally from New Mexico. We moved over here. My wife and I moved over here like 25 years ago. Served in the Border Patrol as well. Retired out of here, and we ended up falling in love with Del Rio.
Yeah.
You know, and this area. You know, I think Frank, you're not originally from here either, right?
No, I'm born and raised in South Texas, McAllen. Then we moved to El Paso. Dad was a Border Patrol agent. And then Army military policeman for 3 years, and Border Patrol 30 years, retired here. I thought kind of like us, we're just going to, just take it easy. But the nation calls. America is calling sons and daughters to stand up, step up, and get in the fight. And so we've got a guy right here, Virgil Armstrong, who is running for mayor of Del Rio, Texas, a border city that last summer, man, saw an invasion unlike anything we've ever seen on our border, anywhere in America. You know, we had at minimum just 35,000 Haitians alone here. That's not counting Mexicans, other than OTMs, Africans, South Americans. I mean, just the world came to Del Rio, came to Texas. And so, Virgil, that's kind of my first question. Look, you were my boss in Stratcom, Strategic Communications at Sector. I know your work ethic. I know your drive. I know your character. I know the way you are. And then from there, you went on to become the Deputy Patrol Agent in charge of Del Rio Station, one of the larger stations in Del Rio sector. So folks, here sitting at the table and running and gunning to be your mayor is a man with experience, a man with executive level experience, a man who has who knows what it is to manage budgets and resources and assets. And so why, when you retired and you could just chill out, why did you decide to get into the political arena?
You just hit the nail on the head, Manny. It's time, or I should I say, the time for sitting on the sidelines is over. Yeah. Our vote is our voice, your voice, Del Rio. And you know what? if we're going to make some change, some positive change for Del Rio, which is time, however minuscule it may be, or however on a grander scale, the time for change is now. The time for leadership, a dominant leadership for Del Rio that is going to, put Del Rio, in the right place, the right time. We've had some hiccups, as you mentioned, the border crisis, lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Everything that went on last summer, it's still going on, even though it's on a smaller scale. You look downriver at what what Eagle Pass is catching.
Yes.
Between here and Eagle Pass, down there in the Moody Ranch area, we're still getting hammered.
Oh yeah.
That hasn't changed. Maybe the media focus has diverted a little bit because there's so much other stuff going on in the world. But our border crisis is still the same. There hasn't been anything or done to fix that at all. I mean, the policy's still there.
And as a matter of fact, Virgil, just folks remember, the Border Patrol has 20-ish sectors throughout the country. Here in Texas, we have 5: the Rio Grande Valley, Laredo, Del Rio, Big Bend, and El Paso. And just this morning, Fox News was reporting 35,000 over the last 3 days. That's some crazy numbers, folks. We were in Laredo, Texas, Atascosa County, just south of San Antonio here last week. Manny and I were at a border symposium where we presented to them the fact that out of the last 2 years, of course, 2020, you saw the numbers for the first 3 months of the quarter, the fiscal year, October, November, December. And so we showed the numbers for 2021 and 19, 20, 21. And the way fiscal year 22 is starting is crazy because we're already almost at 100,000 apprehensions over 2021 just for the first 3 months. Folks, over the numbers for 2021. It's crazy.
Yep, it's insane. Del Rio Sector's already reported that we're over 350% that we were at this time last year. Yeah. And so that folks, the crisis is still going on. And sometimes people think that the mayors of the cities really don't have that much ability to do anything about it, but that's not the reality. The reality is the mayors play a very, very important role in regards to border security. Del Rio has over like 30-something thousand people here in this area. When we think of mayors, more. We think of cities like New York, like Dallas, Houston, things like that, and many of them become very prominent in the media and stuff like that, and they kind of gloss over the mayors here on the border. But what happens here on the border affects the rest of America. Yep. And so, as a mayor, you'll be playing a very important role in regards to border security.
Yes, could not agree more. The emergency preparedness factor of all that. I look forward to doing my part in that. Just based on my experience, helping Del Rio be better prepared for the next 30,000 plus if they do show up. That we are ready for that. We as a community are ready for that, whether it mentally, physically, however it may be. But that we can handle that next crisis when and if it comes, and we all hope and pray it does not. That maybe just lucky we get our policies to change, but I seriously doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, and the great thing about it, Virgil, is and the folks know this. For you Border Patrol agents that are out there and the families, they know that Virgil here is going to fight for the troops. He's going to be for the people on the ground, and so that's part of the situation here. Look. Yeah, in the scale of government, we have cities, hospital districts, counties, state, et cetera. But as a mayor, you affect the lives of the people in your community, in the city, and the Word of God says, that when the king isn't just, when you have a tyrannical kind of ruler, the people groan, the people suffer. And the Virgil, I know that you married locally. You married into a local family, and so that's a family here in this area. And as a lot of you all folks know, on the border regions, this river here, it's our border, but a lot of times there's family across the river. So it's good to have that presence here. And in Del Rio, we're Texans, we're Americans, of course. We speak English, we speak Spanish. That's part of it. It's a unique culture to the border, and so. But one of the things that I think, regardless of where people are, Virgil, on the political spectrum, we as Americans, as just families, parents care about our children. We care about their future. And as you've been going down this road, and as went over in your mind why you wanted to get involved, I'm sure you had some, you got your talking points, but you got your idea. You have your ideas of what you want to do. So one of the first things, I guess, what would you want to do to impact positively the lives of your fellow Del Rians?
I'd say first and foremost, there's got to be some form of economic development for Del Rio, something that's going to support our families, our children for the future. They are the future of Del Rio. And as we've had this discussion before, at a different time, a different place, and that was that there's really minimal industry or businesses that will keep or hire high school graduates and stuff like that here in Del Rio. So if we, working with the county commissioners, and for the betterment of Del Rio and Valverde County, but that is to try and bring in businesses and stuff like that will actually create a better environment for our families, better environment for our community. The development of our downtown, that's already been mentioned. I think it's been working, with the city council right now. I mean, that the beautification plan that's out there for Del Rio, all of that just comes back to us as a community, and to help in any way I can to support that, promote that. Most importantly, there's so much funding out there, coming from government grants and different stuff like that, that I think we as a community, we as a city need to jump on board, and use an old term, the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah.
So if you're not applying for these grants or applying for this funding, even if it gets shot down, there's so much more out there. Just keep applying, keep going, keep moving forward. That's the biggest thing. We as a city need to keep moving forward, looking for our potential for growth, and the future of Del Rio. That's where we need to move. It's got to be, for everybody. Like you said, Frank, you're 100% correct. I'm here for the troops on the ground. Whether it's our law enforcement community, we have a prominent military community with the base out there, and just Del Rio as a whole. I represent them. I'm here for their voice. Through me, to our city council, to our county commissioners. Let's do this together.
And I'm glad to hear you say that, Virgil. As like I said, I've lived here for 25 years now, and my wife and I, we fell in love with Del Rio. But one of the biggest things that we saw and have experienced since we've been here is Del Rio has so much potential. It has so much potential for growth. Our kids moved away as soon as they were able to they want to stay here. They want to stay here. They want to bring up families here because it's the crime rate is low. With the exception of this border crisis that's going on right now. I mean, life is relatively peaceful over here, but for over the last 20-some years that we've been here, it seems like businesses have been prevented from coming in here, and for some reason or another, and we have the Air Force Base here, which should be, which screams out to other businesses that Del Rio's a place to potentially grow. Basically all of our industry is gone now. And I'm not gonna mention the roads right now. I always feel like I'm going off road. When I'm driving around over here, places like that. But my point is that I think sometimes it takes the eyes of someone who hasn't been here their whole life, and not to cast any dispersions or anything like that, but kind of have a fresh look at things. To help this area grow. In the Border Patrol, and you were Frank's boss, and at one point you were my boss as well. But when I always used to tell my agents that my trainees that they would complain about the areas that they were living in. I said, look, try to make it better for the next agent that comes around, for the next agent family that comes around. Get involved in your community, and this is one of the ultimate ways to get involved.
Yes, it is. And to again, you talk about the roads. That was something else. Frank talked about talking points. Infrastructure for Del Rio is actually huge. Making sure that our departments that we have within the city, are all functioning efficiently and economically and stuff like that. And it all comes full circle. To what we're seeing, what the citizens are seeing done out there on the streets on a day-to-day basis. Whether it's repaving, resurfacing, stuff like that. Those are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to infrastructure for Del Rio to help make things better.
Virgil, you're saying that. I mean, you're speaking music to my ear. One of the things that I used to write to the newspaper, you know, when we had the Del Rio News Herald here and such, was every time it rained, man, we had floods in the street, you know, basic stuff. And I know there's a process, and I know there's bureaucracy and stuff, but I know you, man. You're a walk into a room, take charge kind of guy, and that's what we appreciate. You know, in the Border Patrol, yeah, there's also bureaucracy and stuff, but we're always looking for those autonomous people, those people that know what the mission is. They've got the skill set, and so let's go get it done. Let's get the job accomplished, the mission accomplished. I know that's the kind of drive you'll bring to the position. And as we go here into the next into the months ahead, leading up to May, to the election in May, yes. We're here at Manny and I at Tacobout Alive are ready to help you, ready to go out in the streets and help you get that word out, because we know you, and we know that you're gonna take your responsibilities to heart, and you're going to try to do the best job that you can do for us, for our city, for our children, for our future. You know, part of the dynamic of work here, Virgil, is your interaction with the county and with the other, you know, governing entities. And so I imagine if you haven't already, you're definitely going to be reaching out to these people like the county judge and, you know, city council, et cetera. Well, what are your initial thoughts? You know, when you decided to do this, obviously you start with yourself, you start with God. You know, you participate. I understand you're involved with acts and stuff yes. like that. And so tell us a little bit about that journey. You know, it's I'm sure at some point God was wrestling with you, put that thought in your head.
He did.
Tell us a little bit about that journey to the point to where you're at now.
He did. You know, and the simple fact that, you know, I've always been. Since I landed here, 2015, 2016, heavily involved with the community just because of my children. You know, coaching youth football, you know, coaching different sports with them, for them. You know, and to me, it's about the kids. If anybody knows me when I'm out there on the field, when I'm part of the e-board here for the local Del Rio Youth Football League, I am all about the kids. If you know, and that's my mentality is to just. If you're not here to influence those children and make it better, then you shouldn't be part of it.
Get out of the way.
Get out the way, exactly right. And you know, and so coming back full circle, you know, I always talked about, you know, hey, well, you know, we need to step up. And my wife would always joke, like, you know what, you know, you're such a public figure, you know, you in the community, you talk to the coaches, you talk to the people of Del Rio, stuff like this, and, you know, just a busybody, if you will, kind of sort of. My wife would joke, like, you should run for mayor. So it was a joke around the house. That actually has come to fruition. You know, like she would joke amongst our fellow friends and business constituents and stuff like that. It's like, you know, he should run for mayor, and everybody like, no, you really should. You know, and different things like this, just based on my past experience. You know, just what I potentially bring to the table, which I hope is very positive for Del Rio. That's my goal, is to be to make change, but positive change.
Yeah.
And so. You know me, Manny. I'm a Christian. I'm a converted Catholic here at the Del Rio. So a lot of prayer, a lot of thought went into this.
Yeah.
To just do what is right, to be able to make that positive difference. You know, not just be a face in the crowd. You know, and like here you are and stuff like that, but to actually have the ability, and that's all I've ever asked for, is to have the opportunity to make that difference. You know, that's all I ask for.
You know, it's awesome you say that, because I think, you know, my wife has kind of expressed these words to me. Why can't you, you know, why can't you just stay retired? You know, I mean, in the sense that she doesn't want me to get, involved in things. But, you know, she says that because she, like you know, I served in the Border Patrol, served in the United States Army, so, you know, don't hold that against me. There Virgil Franklin's in the Army.
Between two Army guys.
A couple Army guys, right, the Marine in the middle.
Exactly.
I think it's a fair fight. Marines would say that, right?
But you know, she knew that I just couldn't stand back and not say anything, you know, and you running for office, you know, after you served in the United States Border Patrol, you know, you could have just gone out, you know, sat in the porch and drink your coffee and watch the sun rise and the sun set.
Go chase coyotes and predators.
Go chase coyotes and, you know, the real animal coyotes, not the coyotes that run people over. You know, but you decided to get involved in the community, and I think that's a good thing, because I think you do bring a fresh perspective to this community, and especially what you've seen, what illegal immigration can do to a community, how it affects the community, how it affects the people, how it affects our taxes, our way of life over here. I mean, Del Rio has completely changed since this border crisis has begun. Like Frank was saying, just not too long ago, we had almost 15,000 underneath the POE, and we saw how much influence the mayor can have when he shut down the current mayor shut down the POE for a few hours. Right, it made a difference. And as far as border security goes, how do you think how do you think you're going to look at that aspect of it?
As far as border security measures, you know what, it's got to be the big picture. It's got to be everybody that's involved, not just the city of Del Rio. We're talking the county on the outskirts.
Right.
You were talking about our federal brothers and sisters here. Del Rio is such a heavily laden law enforcement community.
Yep.
We have we represent a lot of different agencies right here in Del Rio alone. And they too are affected in some way, shape, or form. They're affected by this border crisis, and say to actually have to close down the port of entry and stuff like that. That's working with CBP, working with the leaders there of CBP at the bridge,
Right.
Coordinating that effort, and it's you also have to coordinate with Mexico. You have to coordinate with Acuna. The city officials of Acuna have to be on board with all that as well, because it affects them. It affects the citizens of Acuna that are coming. Our cross-border traffic. Even though we are considered kind of small town Del Rio, you hear that a lot. Small town Del Rio. We have a pretty prominent border crossing.
Yep.
And so whenever you make that decision, you have to be well informed. You have to make it for the benefit of the community, for the city of Del Rio. And again, it has to be a command decision that's made with a lot of thought, a lot of purpose. It's not just a fly by the seat of your pants, type of thing. So, having my past experience with border issues and stuff like that, that would all be, again, taken into consideration. You coordinate with our local federal and state governments, and we make that call if it's needed to be, and that's down the road, of course. That's
Right.
That's if we ever get to that position again where we have all those under the bridge. Hopefully we're not storing them under the bridge, as we did last time. That was my gosh. I think.
And why the current mayor let it get that far to begin with, it amazed me. And so that's what I'm saying. With the experience that you have, the United States Border Patrol as an agent, you bring to the table the knowledge of what it takes to secure a border. Because as a mayor, you're going to be a part of that emergency operations center, the incident command system that every city should be running by. Frank and I, we've been involved in some of these tabletop exercises years ago for the incident command system and all these things. And if the mayor has no clue of how these systems work and what needs to be done, that system could fail and to help the community. It doesn't matter if it's border security or even floods.
No, very much so.
As you're saying something, Virgil, here, a couple of things come to mind. And so one of the things that I went and spoke with a city manager here a few years ago. I had just retired. We had just hired a new city manager. And I told him, look, okay, so you're going to have supervisors, department heads that come and talk to you, city, recreation, etc., streets, whatever. And I just gave him a word of encouragement, but of counsel, I guess you could say. And he didn't know me from Adam or anything, but I said, at least once a week, get out of the office, go out into the streets. If you see your crews out there patching up a road, stop and talk to them. If you see a water maintenance crew somewhere fixing a pipe, stop and talk to them. And this was the city manager, and I would say even more so, Virgil, for the mayor position. I mean, we can't allow, and you know this as well, the layers that build up in any organization a lot of times cut off communication to the ground level. Now, from our perspective, military and border patrol, the chief needs to know what the troops on the ground are saying and feeling and thinking. And I think that's a perfect segue. As border patrol agents, we all saw, what a Del Rio native, Chief Raul Ortiz, he's been under the gun. He's been under the microscope. Yeah, nationally, the media, etc. but really more so within that organization, under scrutiny by the ones that matter the most, which are the guys on the ground, people, the boots on the ground, like we call it, man.
When Chief Ortiz first came here to Del Rio, that was one of the things that I immediately admired because he was coming from RGV down there.
Yeah.
And so everything that I heard about him at the time was that he would actually get in his ride and go out to the field and work with the agents, talk to them, see how they were doing, stuff like that. So having that background of doing that to where he is now, it's a complete 180. He's going the opposite direction of where he needs to be. I'm going to put Rodney Scott, former chief before him, on a pedestal. Rodney Scott actually was willing to fight for those boots on the ground. He was willing to fight for the patch that we wear on our sleeve. And even though all three of us, we still could say we bleed green. Look at my coffee mug right here on the table here.
Me too. Look to your check.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I got my Border Patrol tattoo. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I got my green stripe on.
The simple fact of representing the troops,
Yeah.
you have to, and that's like you say, just all the way down to something as simple as the Del Rio mayor. You represent the troops, the boots on the ground. You know what? And to get out there and talk to them about that, and talk to them how you doing. Hey, if you were in charge, what would you do different? Their input. Even the smallest guy, the guy that's just digging the ditch, his input is just as important as the supervisor over that crew, because they're going to have ideas on how to make things better, and you just have to get out there and listen. So going back to Border Patrol with Chief Ortiz, he no longer is able to listen based on the agenda that they have put him on.
Yeah.
They've moved him forward. He appears like a puppet. The big thing that happened with Mayorkas and him in Yuma that went viral all over social media and everything else. The last thing you ever do is you don't attack the troops. You don't, everything that was said in that room, it was all being recorded. And of course, again, social media, that nothing could have been more wrong as to doing that, trying to put it back on them. You said, what can I do to help? But see, his position now, where he's at, they're not going to allow him to help. His voice is done.
Right.
And anybody and everybody that's ever wore a green shirt that's looked up to the top, we have had some good leaders. We have had some that were willing to take the fight back to the administration. And that, again, was Rodney Scott. You see what he's doing now. He's actually a different type of voice, but he's still talking against the current administration, their immigration policies and stuff like that. And so he's still putting the fight back to them where, and I apologize to all my brothers and sisters in green out there, we're not going to get that fight anymore from our current leadership.
And it's hard. It's hard for me to say as well Virgil, because he was my chief. Here in Del Rio sector, I consider him a good friend over the years. But what I've seen in these since he's been the chief of the patrol has been very, very disappointing. And I hate saying that. I really, really do. I look at what Chief Scott was doing. We even talked to Mark Morgan, who was a Border Patrol chief at one point, and I wasn't really crazy about them bringing an FBI guy on and whatnot. But since I've talked with him over the last time we were able to have a discussion with him, I was very enlightened in how he looks at border security and what he's willing to fight for as well, even more so than what Raul has been doing right now. That was surprising to me.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that Frank and I, we still get calls and texts a lot from agents and how they what they're feeling and what they're going through, and sadly they feel abandoned by this current chief. And so knowing that these policies that the Biden administration there's actually no policy. It's just open border policy. That's it.
No borders.
There's no borders, right? And so they came in, they got rid of Trump's policies. You and I, when we were in the Border Patrol still, when Trump became president, we saw the difference, right? We saw how the encounters went down, the apprehensions went down, the crossings went down, drug apprehensions went up, sex offender apprehensions went up, like they are all supposed to. We were deporting people, prosecuting smugglers, doing what Border Patrol is supposed to be doing. And I know Raul saw all this, and to come in with this administration that got rid of Trump's policies, not because they were bad policies, but because they just hated Trump, and then to come in and say, I don't see it.
And I just got to say their policy as well, beyond hating Trump, is that they hate America. They hate America. The socialists and Marxists that are in control right now, sadly, of the Democrat Party, hate America. They want to destroy our very foundations. They look for years and years. They've worked to eliminate God, the concept of God, you know, the reality of God,
Constitution,
yeah, the Constitution, etc. And one of the things, Virgil, and I mean, it's got to get put on the table. And actually, one of our viewers here said it. She said, "Shut the NGO down."
Yeah.
So let's go down this road a little bit. You know, not to disparage anybody of any faith or anything. I mean, you yourself said you're a member of ACTS, a Catholic community, but there is, just like in the Republican Party and even in the Democrat Party, there's a lot of people that don't agree, Democrats that don't agree with Biden, Pelosi, their policies, what they're doing to America. And the Republican Party, we have this infiltration of liberals, that want to destroy the Republican Party. Why? Because they know that it stands in the way of liberal Marxist plans. So they want to take down the Republican Party. And even within religions, even within faiths. And so one of the biggest things, Virgil, that we have seen is the role of NGOs, non-government organizations, and what they do now. There's people that look at it from the humanitarian aspect. There, we got to help these people out. There's people that look at it from the perspective of all they're doing is transporting people into the interior of the country.
Yep.
And one of the biggest players, you know this as well as I do, is Catholic Charities. And so I'm not asking you, I just, just your general thoughts. What are your thoughts about that as a person of faith and as a Catholic?
Well, I think, the NGOs, like I say, they are, some of those are Catholic charities. I mean, they come from all walks of life. Their initial view or their initial stance on the immigration issues, and I'm going to go back before this administration. I'll even go into the Trump administration, probably even before that. They were there to assist, provide aid, help out, things like this. And we historically, as Border Patrol, we dealt with them whenever we had a separated family. We had a border crisis, where there was some border violence, some heinous border violence that separated a family, directly affected a family. We would bring the family into our fold, help them out, get them to the NGO so they could provide assistance to them on go through whatever process they were going through at the time. So that in itself was the initial upbringing of the NGOs and how they came to be.
Yeah.
Now, that whole focus has changed to where, like you said, they are actually facilitating the transport of these aliens, and I know they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. If you look at the big picture, it's still a positive mission. But I think they're and I could be wrong about this, but they're being aided and abetted through this administration to get them as fast as they can. This last group of Haitians, everything that I heard was that they already had money.
Yeah.
They've been living in Mexico for however long, transitioning themselves from South America into Mexico, and when they show up here, the NGOs, immediately ran out of money, stuff like that. The Haitians were, hey, it's okay, I have money, and where did you get where did all of this come from? I mean, so again, not being a conspiracy theorist, but it really does make you raise an eyebrow and think about where did they come from, a country that was already in despair, traveling to the United States. Where did that money come from? How did they get that money to facilitate their travel to whatever state they were going?
Yeah, and so. Yeah, to clarify it a little bit, folks, the reason I asked that is because, it was a question here, but as we've been going down this road, fighting against this aspect. Oh, yeah, there you go. As we've been dealing with this, we have had to, bring to mind and make known to folks, what is happening on the border. And part of that has been the role of the NGOs. And so Manny and I have been examining that. We've been researching it, and actually, what's transpiring, people, is just so you know that it's coming under the microscope of Congress. There are now calls for watchdog groups. There are Freedom of Information Acts that have been filed. Congressmen are looking at it. One person that right immediately comes to mind, Lance Gooden, out of the Dallas area, is looking into the NGOs. It's made it big time on Fox News and everything. And so, even right now in the midst of primary season, as we have people going to the ballots to vote for the representative here in CD 23, we have Congressman Tony Gonzalez, who is in bed with the non-government organizations, and Tony Gonzalez is the king of hypocrites.
Right.
He is, I mean, of the hypocrites, he stands head and shoulders above everybody else because he facilitated the movement of illegal aliens from Laughlin Air Force Base on behalf of Mayorkas when Mayorkas sent Raul Ortiz to speak to and get Raul Ortiz on board to approach Tony Gonzalez. We have the video where Raul Ortiz says, hey, I'm the one that asked Tony Gonzalez to ask DOD Air Force to allow Laughlin Air Force Base to be used for 737s to fly these people that Virgil was just talking about. These are not credible, real amnesty cases. But Tony Gonzalez allowed them to fly into the country. And then the other thing is he's in bed with the non-government organizations like Endeavors and all these other NGOs up and down this border. And it's about the money. And so it is about the money. And the way that it's being used, like, for instance, Manny, one of the things that I posted was that George Soros, everybody knows George Soros is like, man, the evil emperor that wants to destroy America.
Except the Democrats. They don't know that for some reason.
Yeah, some of the Democrats don't. Of course, the leaders, the elites do know that. And Tony Gonzalez, we're gonna show you folks the links that Tony Gonzalez has to George Soros. But anyways, they just gave like almost $200 million to this institute, the Institute for Justice, to help illegal aliens get off the hook for the charges against them.
Right.
And that's our money that's going to that.
It is our money.
Rightfully so. Congress, watchdog groups are looking at non-government organizations and the role that they play. And right here, we just got the news that down here by Whataburger and the Chinese buffet place here, Manny. They used to be a eye clinic of some kind. It was purchased. Reports say it was purchased to be used as a facility for Catholic Charities. Right off our main street here, Veterans Boulevard in Del Rio.
Right out there in view of everybody. And I think people don't realize. Well, I'm gonna, if you're on the border, all the way from Brownsville to San Diego, these NGOs are complicit on illegal immigration.
Yeah.
They're furthering illegal immigration. It's sad to say that a lot of people in regard that have faith backgrounds, or Frank and you and I, we've talked with people that worked at these NGOs, that volunteer at these NGOs from faith backgrounds. There's a lot of congregations and churches, not just Catholic churches, but
Methodist,
that are involved in bringing people, furthering illegal immigration into the United States. What they've done is basically cut out the middleman for the smuggling organizations. And so my opinion, I'm going to say it over and over again, they're nothing but travel agencies for the cartels, and they have helped make the United States government the largest legal smuggling organization in the world, because this is what's happening. I when I driving around Del Rio, I see them gathered at the local gas stations, at the local NGOs. Folks, these NGOs are making big bank facilitating this illegal immigration. And they're one of the big reasons I think that the smuggling organizations and the cartels are making more than $25 million a week is because many of these cartels and smuggling organizations no longer have to pay for these drivers, that they used to pay for. These NGOs are doing it for them,
And so what about the children? I mean, I just gotta say that it's kind of like Anthony Aguero when he went and got in what's his name's face, Sharpton's face. What about the children? What about the children? Look, folks, this is a massive cover for the movement of women and children, and by reports out there, even Health and Human Services, which is the federal agency that's largely in charge of this, Office of Refugee Resettlement, ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, of course, DHS, they're involved in this. But children are disappearing, folks, and as believers, as Americans, as God-fearing Americans, we should be troubled at what's happening. So anyways, that was a bit of a segue there, and so we're going to come back over here. Of course, you're running for mayor, and then one of the things that you said that's near and dear to me, Virgil, is economic development. We need that. Look, government is
the main employer here in this area, whether it's a school district, the city, the county, or the federal government.
Yeah.
And then you've got, retail, you've got service, you got restaurants and service providers and stuff. But honestly, we need manufacturing. We need some kind of manufacturing or some kind of other form, professional industry here. One of the things that I've thought about is we're on the doorway, Virgil, to Big Bend, and so we need that's a door for ecotourism.
Yes.
Ecotourism. I mean, there's a lot of outdoor recreational stuff that needs to be expanded. I know that Academy, there was reports that Academy initially wanted to come to Del Rio. For whatever reason, I'm not too certain about that. They wound up in Eagle Pass. But we need to explore that, man. We need, and that's retail as well. But we need to look at the long-term viability, sustainability of our community. Out by Austin, the mayor of a city out there, and I'll have to look it up. I know we have reported it, but he petitioned Samsung directly. The mayor petitioned Samsung, and Samsung built a multi-million-dollar facility in his community because the mayor went and spoke with Samsung. And that's the kind of stuff, and that's like thousands of jobs to build the facilities, the infrastructure that goes into it, and then, all these jobs that stick around at a Samsung manufacturing facility, man. And so that's the kind of over-the-horizon, creative looking that we need here. And, man, I'll definitely partner. As folks know, look, I'm running for Congress. And part of what I would be doing is sitting down at the table with people like Virgil and his team at the city and at the county. What are we going to do to bring the spotlight not just on Del Rio, not just on Valverde County, but also on our communities, on our region. And so it's a network, Virgil. And that's, I know you know that, man. You know about coalition building. You were very involved, Border Patrol, different functions, different organizational levels. I'm sure you see that transition where you could use that skill set to make Del Rio shine on the border.
No, without a doubt, you're exactly right, Manny. And that was one of the first things.
Frank, he's
Manny, Frank.
Los Cuates.
I'm looking right at you and I'm talking to him.
We are the Taco Twins.
Yeah. So to go down that road, one of the first things you heard me mention right off the bat was economic development for Del Rio and how important I think that is. In again, whether it's these manufacturing plants working there, I know that it's something that is on the city horizon right now is a second international bridge, and you watch the city council. I catch up with city manager Sheeling. I watch his post council meeting report that comes out on Facebook as well. Which I think and I gave him kudos the other night. We were at a little get together. It was a beautification project that's coming around for Del Rio, and we had a pretty good turnout for that. But I sat down and I talked with him about that as well, and of course it's coming about that we as a city, could look forward to that second bridge. I mean, because if we don't entertain the idea of bringing that type of industry, Acuña is already on board. They're ready to go. Where we, I think, the city of Del Rio. We need to step up. We need to move a little faster, a little harder. We need to give it some more economic thought as far as the betterment and the benefit of Del Rio, how we would see that. But it's out there. It's knocking on our doorstep to build that second bridge.
Yeah.
And again, that creates all the maquiladoras that are down in Mexico to facilitate their cross transit of all their product and stuff like that, which in turn can help create more for Del Rio. And that's just one part of it. Like again, you talk about the economic base of having more and more businesses want to come to Del Rio that would be a benefit for their families, for our families, for the future of Del Rio, and that's just going to create more and more prominent futures, as we talked about, for our children. And if they want to decide to stay here, that they can go out and find that job, a good enough job that's going to support the family that they bring up and start raising here in Del Rio. Whereas right now, you mentioned it, I know, I look at some of my children, I'm gonna be losing one next year, he's a junior now, he'll be a senior next year, and where's he gonna go, what's he gonna do? I mean,
Yeah.
we have some ideas, and he talks about, where he wants to be, and it's very saddened to me, that it's probably not going to be here in Del Rio,
Right.
there's nothing here for him.
Yeah, like my children, they have mentioned to me many times that they would have loved to have stayed here in Del Rio, but of course, there's only like a few things that they can do. Is either law enforcement, military, and if they're fortunate to get stationed back over here, the school district or medical, and sad to say, in our community, the medical facilities are somewhat to be desired as well, and we get a lot of people that aren't from here, this area, serving in these medical facilities as well, and it's kind of hard to project, whether or not we're going to have beneficial medical securities in facilities in the future as well, because there's so much potential that Del Rio has.
Yeah.
And that's why I love being here. Sometimes I think about heading out as well, going out up by San Antonio area as I get older. I have more doctor's appointments that come up, but I love being here. I really do, and so, and the quality of life to me is a little bit better, and the cost of living is a little bit, property taxes, however, they need to go away, but, we like it here.
It is a bit of a challenge, and of course, that's been in the works for years and years.
There have been past administrations, mayors, et cetera, that have actually had county judges that have had issues with, developing the area with growth in Del Rio. One of the big challenges that I think right off the bat, guys, is, under CBP, which is the parent organization to Border Patrol, Office of Field Operations, Air and Marine Operations, there is a perennial, challenge to recruiting and retaining people at the one bridge we have here. Yes. So that would be quite the challenge that the federal government OFO will have to look at to staff another bridge, which a lot of, all the talk is everything out towards the lake and everything. But we need to be thinking now, with the developers, with the chambers of commerce, with, business owners and government entities. We don't want Del Rio just to be the point where these maquiladoras, manufacturing jobs in Mexico, owned by American companies, they build it, and then all we do here is just packaging, some minor assembly, just so it goes out up the road into the interior. We want because with manufacturing, folks, there's jobs that are created, and then pensions,
Right.
Investment plans, savings plans for these people, and so if you got that, a major manufacturer of some type, then that gives the room for good old American entrepreneurship, cottage industries to pop up, something that's going to feed into the main So we need to be looking at that and be very aggressive about going and finding, somebody to take a chance on bringing a manufacturing type of industrial type of basis here. Now, there's concerns, the ecology, environment, all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of issues, but that's why you've got to have all the stakeholders at the table, and then really hash it out and talk about it. And there's some old mindsets that need to be destroyed, Virgil. I know you're connected. You know about some of these old mindsets, man. We got to tear that stuff down, because otherwise, you know what? It's an alternative. If our kids, like your son, like my sons, bro, they leave. They go because, hey, they go to school, they go find jobs elsewhere. But the other alternative is those dang cartels, those criminal organizations that are recruiting our children. Yep. And if you look at this border region, places like Crystal City, Carrizo Springs, Eagle Pass, and even here in Del Rio, crime, the life of crime has a certain allure to it. We need to offset that. We need to offer them an alternative. And so I just, wanted to throw that out there,
No, you're very right. I mean, it's hard to compete with that because, as we, being prior law enforcement, stuff like this, that we'd always look at that, like, hey, you catch a guy, you're like, well, why are you doing it? He's like, because it's easy money.
Easy money.
It's easy money. They're going to pay me this much to do this much, or do nothing at all, but sit on the top of a hill, and watch for you guys. And whenever you guys would come around, I call on the radio, and I get paid so much a day for just doing that. It's crazy.
I remember pulling teenagers over driving Escalades, man. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Where'd you get that kind of money from?
Right.
So to compete with that, with our children, and push them forward, I mean, the only sad drawback was, we saw this huge increase of unemployment, where the government was paying everybody to just stay home. We're still seeing the residual effects of that. It's sad to say, we as a country, we're fighting the increase of minimum wage. Like, well, we really don't need that.
Yeah.
But look at what's happened, and the businesses themselves, because they still have to stay gainfully employed, they still have to stay in production and stuff like that. They took it upon themselves, like, you know what, that to you, you don't have a say in how I run my business. And you look at some of these businesses and what they're paying now, as far as it's well above minimum wage.
Right.
And that's just so they can actually stay above water, stay in the green, and not in the red. And you plan on taking any type of vacation, you plan on going anywhere right now, and this is just, I'll use Texas as an example, is you get the warnings of service will be slow due to lack of employment.
Right.
And it's so sad that we got to see that, where I would, I'd love to have that in Del Rio, the creation of jobs, more jobs, bring in, reach out, even if it's just a letter, if it's a solicitation, if you have to go in person, why not? Well, what's it going to cost me as the mayor of Del Rio? Not going to cost me a darn thing to go talk to an industry or talk to a prominent business. Would you consider bringing that to Del Rio?
Right.
And again, you have to be willing to put forth the facts. What do we stand to gain if we come to Del Rio?
Yep.
You know what? I think we have an economic thirst in Del Rio, and you see it, you hear about it in the community day to day. It's like, why does Eagle Pass have that and we don't have that?
Yeah.
You hear that so much.
Yeah, and as we get closer to closing out, I'm gonna kind of throw it out there as well, because living over here for these last 20-some years, 20+ years, I've heard and seen about a lot of businesses that want to come over here, and sad to say, there's a lot of local politics that have a play in that have an influence in that, where local businesses are kind of turned away, and I appreciate.
I've heard about that.
Yeah,
We all have.
we all have, and I appreciate people, local businesses wanting to flourish, but the reality too is that competition is good.
Yeah.
Competition provides growth. When you bring other businesses in, it increases your customer service, it increases gaining experience in other fields of work. But we have a lot of restaurants, we have a lot of gas stations. You can't just keep working at those things.
And it's a complex issue. I mean, think about it, folks. Here, a few years ago, we had this loop created out here. And what was part of the big, selling point for that? Well, the property along that loop will be used to bring in business and industry.
Where are
so
they?
far, nothing's happening. And I know it's complex. Look, there's so many layers. It's such a comprehensive issue. I'm glad to hear, Virgil, that like you said, you were at a gathering, was a well-attended event. People are talking about this. Now we just need, those are all the pieces to the orchestra now. So now it's time for you to take up the little,
It is.
And direct that, working in conjunction, of course, with the county judge and with the other governing entities here. Part of what we hear about also is clashing, and butting of heads and personality issues. Man, this is our town.
Yeah.
This is our town. We need to work together for the good of all of us, for the good of our children, for the vibrancy and the health of our community. And look, when you talk about going out and you're willing to go get, in front of a group of people, an investor, a company, a corporation, or anything, let's give old Bruno a call, and I'm sure he'll put us on an airplane there somewhere. I'm sure Bruno can get us some airplane tickets there, right, Mayor?
But Virgil, I want to thank you so much for joining us here this morning. It's been a pleasure, and as for me, I pray that you are get elected, and we do need a fresh change, a fresh perspective, someone who knows border security, who also loves this community. Not saying that other people don't, that are running, but I believe that you want to better this community and our way of life over here.
I do, and I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not saying anything like this. I did this for a reason, and that is to make Del Rio better than what it was. And if and when I do, God willing, I am elected, within 4-year term, that I can make a very positive impact. I'd like to throw one more thing out is that tonight I will be at Mesquite Creek with a small meet and greet of people. So if you do want to come tonight at 6:45 to Mesquite Creek, we're going to have one of my first community meet and greets tonight, so we can talk further. I could get to meet some of y'all if you want to show up. And then as I grow and as I move forward in this process, I will be able to, Frank mentioned, well, you don't have a Facebook page. I'm a little behind on that.
No, we'll hook you up.
So as we develop all of this and move forward, I will be getting out there in the community more and more, putting out my message, and I really appreciate y'all having me on. This has been awesome.
And thanks for inviting us. So, folks, you heard it here tonight down here on Main Street at the Mesquite Outfitters, right?
Greek Outfitters.
It used to be the Emporium and other businesses, so Main Street, you can't miss it. Virgil's made the invitation. So look, this man wants to be your mayor. You've got to come meet him, look him in the eye, and hear from his heart. What are his plans for our community? I believe they're good. I believe it's good plans. I believe he wants to do a good thing for us, because he just didn't, move into the area. He came in and he quickly started establishing roots in the community. That's important. He cares about it. So thanks, Virgil, for being here, brother. We appreciate you so much. We're praying for you. And we said it. We're going to do everything we can to help you get into that position, because we need leadership like yours in office, man. Thank you so much.
And I know you got signs. I got a sign. I think that, I went to your Facebook page, messaged you guys, was able to get a sign to me and stuff. Yep. Frank's got signs now as well, as you can see. Frank Lopez is running for Congress as independent for District 23 against Tony Gonzalez. Folks, get out there, vote for him.
Yeah, remember November. Right now is the primary, and there are some very important elections right now. Some tight races.
So commissioner races are coming up. We have those. We have the Justice of Peace elections coming up. That's going to be in March. Again, Del Rio, your voice.
Yeah. Early voting's going on now.
Your voice is your vote, and it matters. And I'm kind of repeating what Judge Owen said. You have to get out there and put your voice and let it be heard.
Amen. Well, folks, we want to thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Tacobout It Live with Frank and Manny. God willing, we'll be here next Tuesday, 8 a.m., next Taco Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time here in Del Rio, Texas. We'll bring you some more news, events, and talking points as well. So, folks, but get out there, vote, get out there, be a part of your community, make a difference, get the word out, and we'll say God bless you, God bless. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, folks are asking, how do we get his name out? Virgil Armstrong. Stay tuned. As soon as he gets his Facebook up and running and everything, we'll make it known to you, folks. But thanks for your persistence.
Amen. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. And we'll say God bless you, God bless America, God bless Texas.